a bird. It's a plane. It's
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action. This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright, and you're listening to
the All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Welcome to the Krypton Report, episode number 247. Today's episode is brought to you by Kellogg's, because don't you forget that back in the 50s, old Clark Kent would wake up and have breakfast with Jimmy Olsen, because it wasn't weird that Jimmy came by for breakfast, but if he had breakfast with Lois, that raised questions. Thank you, 1950s America and Kellogg's. But really, we're not sponsored by Kellogg's. That'd be pretty sweet because I like cereal.
They're great!
I kind of prefer to be sponsored by like Coke, maybe Cherry Coke, would be kind of dope, but whatever. It's cool. We'll take sponsors. But anyways, let's get going today. I have with me the voice of Tony the Tiger, Bryan.
I'm adequate.
And also the muscles that can talk for themselves, James.
Yo.
It's just like a muscle grew, and then a mother muscle grew.
You can.
And then they started going, yeah.
And then, of course, you have me, myself, the Superman of Blue, with, as I've been told earlier today, I have lovely eyes and red cheeks, Tyler. So.
What the
Who told you that today?
My cheeks were admired by Charlie and Phil, okay? I'm just saying.
I heard Phil say you had boyish good looks last night.
I do.
Talking Long Halloween.
I do.
He does. He really does. That's why he has the beard, so that way, he looks like his age.
Is there something you need to tell us about you and Phil there?
We're brothers from another mother. But not like Superman. Oh, because they have the same mother and different dads, but still different.
I still don't get it. I still don't understand it.
Yeah, we're going to get there. So let's talk real quick a couple of things here. One, I do want to let all of our listeners know that recently, that dropped on our YouTube, you can hear Bryan and I discuss the 10-year anniversary of the Green Lantern movie. So that was pretty cool. And it's on YouTube, as well as our review of The Long Halloween Part 1. So check out our YouTube. We're putting stuff up there that's not going to be on the main feed. So check that out. Also, check out our Twitter, because I want to really get these two hashtags moving. I want HBO Max to restore Superboy and to restore The Adventures of Superman, because those are two shows that I'm missing that were on DC Universe. And I don't mind, HBO Max, but I really wish they would add the legacy stuff, because that's what made DC Universe so rich, was a lot of the legacy and history of these characters that caused the issue. So that's kind of that.
For sure. I support this.
The other thing, before we get into like news stuff, was I watched The Flash this week, and this is not really a spoiler or anything. It's not. There's a quick scene where Chester has on his computer a map of like the U.S., and it's like it shows where the cities are, and it has Metropolis kind of up in that New York type area. It's always interesting to see where they place cities.
That's
like
awesome.
In the map. So
I'm glad now that we've got Superman that they actually have Metropolis on the map, because they just avoided Gotham and Metropolis as much as possible.
But then somehow Oliver always knew about Gotham, and it was like this big deal.
And the only thing they ever mentioned once in a while was Bloodhaven, like twice.
Yeah. And that was like in what, season 2? Season 1?
I think so, yes. Or very early on. 1 or 2. Yeah.
So, all right. What do we got for news here? Let's see. The Suicide Squad is going to be 2 hours and 12 minutes. Of course, it's 2:12. It has a post-credit scene. Makes sense. We do know that Superman and Lois will be returning July 13th.
Yes, a change from last time when IMDb told me the 27th. Fitzy Tulloch posted July 13th on her Twitter.
It's on hiatus now?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, I bought the whole season on iTunes, and I don't get that tidbits at the end of the episode.
Well, I don't either because I watch them on iTunes. I just follow the Twitter accounts. And the other thing was we talked about it before was
you're better than me. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, I know. But
I watch them. I watch them live when I can, and then I get up early and I watch it before I go to work on my Prime.
But they gave us the finale date, and we know there's 15 episodes, and this was episode 11, and we still have all of July, and then pretty much most of August.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, they're going to go on a break for a little bit because they only have now 4 episodes left and like 6 weeks. So, but that episode's supposed to be the Diggle episode, right?
Yes.
So,
I wonder if it's the one he directed.
No, he directed Man of Steel.
Oh yeah, that's right. He directed one, and he's going to be in another.
Yeah.
Yes, that is correct.
And let's see.
We got a comic book guy in the house.
the funny thing here.
You see, James. You know, we went into this Superman show thinking that it could possibly be the worst Superman show ever, and we were wrong.
Okay, you went into
that
the
was
show.
comic book guy. That was his opinion going into the show.
Not Bryan, comic book guy from The Simpsons. Just to clear that up.
Listen. Tyler, up until this show, was not delivering at full capacity his Superman and Clark abilities, you see. And Supergirl has kind of gone downhill, you see. And I admit when I was wrong. And it is not the worst show ever. Yeah.
In fact, it may be the best.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. And I stated this last time, but I actually got into a discussion with Phil and Connor because certain things that Connor over at Last Sons was talking about, you know, kind of upset about. And we were talking, I said, this show, and I've said this multiple times, is Superman's greatest hits. They've taken everything that has worked from Lois and Clark, from Smallville, from Man of Steel, and the Christopher Reeves era. They've taken all of that's work that people like, and they've put it together. And it's in that they've been able to craft their Superman. And that's why it's so well loved, is they're hitting what everybody likes. They're not really trying to reinvent the wheel.
It is literally every single Superman thing. You got the Fleischer cartoon.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of George Reeve in there. Yeah, I'm changing my voice. You know, but
that's
come
why
back to us, Bryan.
That's why they get paid the big bucks to maintain that.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's more than Superman's greatest hits. I mean, this show, like, I don't know if we can go back to, well, I mean, we can talk about podcasts we had before the show even started. You know, we said, you know, what do we want out of this show? And we all agreed that we want something different. We want to see Superman in a new light. We want to see something we've never seen before. And not only this show giving us things we've never seen before, him as a father, him more as a husband, him having to juggle all these aspects of his life, but we're still seeing that classic stuff as we saw in this episode, the classic origin things, the love story, and I just love this show so much. And I'm a big critic of Superman sometimes, you know, because I just love confrontation. But I just love this show.
I just wanted to say really quick that I'm drinking this tea that my beautiful wife made me from my amazing good friend Bryan from the mug that he bought me. So just want to throw that out there, my Superman dad mug. So just wanted to right there.
You know, it's funny though. We talk about like you bring up like all the stuff that Superman tends to balance in stories, Metropolis, his identity, this and that. it's funny because they actually cut a lot of that out because they live in Smallville and he doesn't work at the paper.
Yeah, I mean, they moved him along in his life. So real quick, last couple of news things, and we'll move on to the actual show discussion. But the Snyder Cut is receiving the U.S. home distribution on September 7th, physical copies.
Physical media.
So it's crazy because I bought my 4K through Amazon UK.
I bought my Blu-ray through Amazon UK. And
Because
I'm going to buy my Blu-ray through Amazon UK and not tell my wife about it.
I just, my thing was James and I are always big on physical media. I wanted to have my own copy to save in a vault to be like, this movie exists and lives. Because the thing is, we know with digital files, they can always change, up, edit, take out. We've seen that constantly with Star Wars, our digital copies and streaming services. I wanted my own physical copy, and they had not announced anything for the States. So,
I mean, we knew it was coming. We knew they were driving those subscriptions to HBO Max. It's coming out just 3 months before the holidays. It's a good time. It's a business release. They're doing what they're doing, but I'm getting the 4K for when it releases in America, and I will be able to watch it in 4K once I upgrade.
And what's funny is I'm going to buy the Blu-ray DVD combo pack so that I have that backup copy for my other players, since I have the one player for 4K.
Right, makes
so
sense.
I can watch it other rooms in the house.
Well, that's why I bought the regular Blu-ray, because I can watch it as soon as it arrives. The 4K can sit on my shelf and just look beautiful amongst the other 3 Zack Snyder DCEU films. And
they are releasing. Did you see? Like, you can buy the trilogy pack where it's Man of Steel.
Looks awesome.
Yeah, it's Man of Steel, the extended cut of BVS, and then Zack Snyder's
Ultimate Edition. Yep.
I kind of wonder why he's not like, okay, I have a director's cut for Man of Steel. Let's just put that in there. But it just feels like that one's pretty locked in. Yeah. So
give it time.
Did you guys see the end of the Michael Shannon interview that I shared on Twitter? He just had a quick interview with a guy. It was on Facebook. I'm not even sure who it was with, but he asked him about working on Man of Steel and Zack Snyder, and he's just like, he's so praising of how great of a person he is, and says at the end he deserves better.
Michael Shannon's an interesting guy. Like, he's a great actor. Okay, he's a great actor. But what's funny is I remember listening to him talk, and he's like, he doesn't. He's not a huge tech person. He's like, I have a flip phone. He's like, I don't care. Like,
yeah,
and he doesn't.
I think his name on that was actually his daughter's iPad or his wife's iPad. Like, it wasn't his name. It was something bad. It was a woman's name.
It's just funny to listen to him talk, because he's very humble, down to earth person, and like very like yeah, it was kind of like a job. Like, he don't get into like a lot of the whole fandom stuff as much, but he's just an amazing actor. And then Madame Xanadu series that I guess was announced today. I missed that, and James caught that, so that could be kind of interesting.
Yep.
Just because
saw that a Variety article was shared. Madame Xanadu on HBO Max in development by Bad Robot.
Is it live action or animation?
It looked like it was going to be live action.
That's interesting. Like, because to me, Madame Xanadu just falls into that Justice League Dark category.
Well, Bad Robot is the people who are working on the Justice League Dark for HBO Max, are they not?
It could lead into it. Because weren't they looking for weren't they looking for Xanadu in the Justice League movie? Like, it was when they were kind of like doing the Justice League Dark animated movie. Like, weren't they kind of looking for Xanadu in the story. Like, I mean, I know she was part of the team. That's why she's looking for her. I know, but like, anyway, I think it could lead into the show. Like,
it just kind of makes me like, which one will come first? Like they'll say that this one will come first or that one, but will it really?
Well, I mean, they could. I mean, the Swamp Thing show is canon, according to CW Universe with Crisis on Infinite Earths. So all you have to do is, pull in Xanadu into the universe, and then bada bing, bada boom. You have the makings of a.
Well, she was
Yeah,
she was in the Swamp Thing show.
Yes, she was.
I need to go back and rewatch it. Like I have it on home media, but it's packed up right now for the move, and it's not streaming.
What the hell am I doing? She was on that show.
It's not streaming on HBO, which is a travesty. But
No, I'll give you the answer. I'm sorry, guys. I kind of zoned out for a second. I was looking at a steelbook version of the Snyder Cut. Yeah, I know. I'm a horrible person.
It's okay. We let it slide.
I got distracted. I saw a Snyder Cut steelbook. I got distracted. I was trying to figure out how much it was costing, and then it started looking like it was a German version, and the Region B, which I don't know if it'll work. But moving on. Yay, Superman's the greatest.
Yay!
He is.
Who said that? But yeah, that's all the news. Oh wait, there's one more thing, and I take this with a grain of salt. I'm not going to overthink it because it feels like I've heard them say this before, but the only difference now is just there's another person that's been added to the conversation, and Michael Rosenbaum and Tom Welling want to push for a Smallville animated series. Like, I don't know if it's going to be exactly a continuation or what their goal is, but
Let's do this.
That would
I
be
say
cool.
stop holding on to the past.
I mean, it would be cool, but it's one of those things that why? Because Smallville
as DC taught you nothing. Like people latch on and they never let go.
I'm the main guy that's always stuck in the past.
I know.
I'm the one that's always like.
I know. It was very funny. We got that.
Oh, thanks, guys.
it's just
Guys.
But
I did finally say, you know what, guys? Trunks on a live-action Superman does look silly. You heard me say it.
Yeah, we did.
I finally said it. I finally admitted it. And, yeah, you had your victory. You're welcome.
It's funny because we were talking about, like, finding the right color combination of the right blue with the right red seems to be the hardest part. And I think the blue has to be a little bit brighter and the red has to be a little bit darker, like you said, Brian, so that you don't just, like, zoom.
Yeah,
but it also,
you know what I mean.
It's also like how if you watch where there are trunks, we'll say recently the scenes in this episode, and then the
Brandon Routh and Kingdom Come in Crisis.
Yes, that it's a lot of waist up shots. Like there are wider shots or whatever. Just for those quick, like, oh, cool type scenes, but then you do film a lot of more just waist up for most of it, where you're not really seeing it. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of been my thing has been in the comics. It's fine, but live action, I just feel like you got to kind of get past it because we've always had the conversation like Batman left his live action trunks behind back in the 80s, and nobody cares. But for Superman, it's like you have to have it for everything.
Yeah,
dude, he left it back in the 60s. Like I mean, so Ben Affleck's Batman, there you can kind of see like a fade in the gray, like gray and like it almost can look like he's wearing trunks in one of the suits, but the only live action Batman that's wore trunks, as far as I know, is Adam West.
Well, you go back to Lewis Wilson And
touche.
always,
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I always forget the other guy, but after West, they were gone.
Yeah, you're right.
With Ralph's Kingdom Come suit, he's got a black belt with a gold buckle, and the red is the same as his emblem and his cape and his boots, and with the Fleischer, and then the black just looks really good. And then with the Fleischer one that Tyler wears, I noticed the belt is red with the red buckle, and it hardly stands out from the rest of the trunks. But the red in the trunks matches boots, matches the cape, matches the red on the S. And his is a lighter blue, and the red is lighter. It's a brighter red, but when you look at things like Dean Cain, his was a darker blue, but man, those trunks were red.
Mm-hmm. And the boot was a different red.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Like they couldn't get it to really all the way work,
that's why it worked for Chris at the time too, because his was also a brighter blue with a brighter red, so they kind of flowed, and it wasn't as bright and pop as it does nowadays. So the blue and the red and the material, it was flat. The colors were flat, and they went together.
And you weren't dealing with HD 4K, back in the 70s, where the colors pop more, and that's why Reeves' suit blends a little bit better. Same with George's, you're totally right. But it's either they both have to be bright, or they both have to be or they have to be a real dark. It's tough, but I'm watching Dean Cain in season 2 of Superman, or Clark and Lois and Clark. Sorry.
Nope, it's all good.
The suit looks better, but man, if he gets knocked over in a fight, and he's just laying there, that's when you can really notice, when he's trying to get up, and it just looks like he's wearing a diaper. It doesn't work for our boy.
The other thing that you said right there, James, you were talking that I hadn't considered, and Bryan kind of started this conversation when we started this whole thing, was the yellow belt and how striking that is. That
you gotta have the belt, baby.
But think, the Tyler Fleischer suit and the Brandon suit both utilize black belts. And that helps.
I'm trying to pull up all the suits I can.
What, you don't have a copy of my giant PDF I made when we did our episode all about all the suits?
Bro,
what?
Oh my God, Bryan.
How could you?
Listen.
We're done with you, man.
Tyler and James, wow. I got this new computer set up. I can't figure it out. Wife set it up. I mean, come on. I'm working here. Okay, wow.
We forgive you, Christopher Walken. You're good.
Could you imagine if I would have played Brainiac? I mean, wow. Kal-El in my ship. Wow.
But think about just the time frame. I always think about that. When he would have played, it would have been really interesting. So, I don't know. It would have been interesting.
It would have been legendary. It would have been amazing. It would have been probably, you want to say that it probably would have been bad. But
dude, I'd be down for it now if they cast him. Because everything's CGI.
So
all he needs to do is be the voice and maybe the face. Motion capture face.
So great.
He could do that now, dude, and it'd be fantastic.
I have the city of Kandor right here, Superman. Your Kryptonian heritage means absolute shit to me.
I think we would lose some of his physical idiosyncrasies through that performance, but it would still be great.
I mean, yeah.
You couldn't see Brainiac shrugging his shoulders and getting his hands out there like Christopher Walken does when he talks, you know? It wouldn't work for Brainiac.
I'm sorry. I'm going to trend on Twitter tonight, walking for Brainiac, man. Like, I want it to happen.
So.
And then one last thing I just wanted to throw in there, and we don't have to talk about, just because we love Henry Cavill. July 9th, WitcherCon. They are doing a WitcherCon, video games, books, the show, and information about season 2. Like the Red, what is it? Red, who made it? Red Project? So the developers, they're going to be there. They're going to be doing the whole thing. So they're going to be
Red Project, the company that can get Witcher right, but they can't do Cyberpunk.
These are true statements. They're verified.
I haven't played Cyberpunk since it came out, and everything that happened. I was like, well, I think I can wait on that for a while.
Cyberpunk is the Joss Whedon Justice League of video games.
Wow. That is not a praising statement.
No. Now, if you would have said that Joss Whedon, Avengers, people are like, yeah, but all right, guys, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with Superman and Lois.
This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
If you want to help out this show and any other show on Southgate Media Group, and you really don't have the extra money to do so, check this out. Go to southgatemediagroup.com. At the top, there's a link to Amazon. Click that, log into your Amazon, shop and buy like normal, and part of the money that you spend comes back to us to help us with our podcasts. Hello, everybody. I just want to let you know that Southgate Media Group has its own Patreon. That's right. For $5 a month, you can get exclusive shows, content, and interviews with the different podcasters of the network. This Week in Geek is a Patreon exclusive only series. So check it out. Go www.patreon.com/Southgate Media Group. We are always adding new content. If you're like me and you love listening to different podcasts about Superman, I have a few that I want you to check out. Some of my favorites are The Last Sons of Krypton. Connor and Ray are always reviewing different books, and it's really nice and refreshing to kind of dig back into older stuff. The Aspiring Kryptonian, Tasman and her team are always finding interesting people to interview. Digging for Kryptonite has become one of my favorite ones to listen to, as Anthony digs into different eras of the character. There's always the Always Hold On to Smallville, which I've guested on before, if you're wanting to step back into that nostalgia realm. So check out all these, and there are many, many more. So check out our Twitter, because we're constantly finding new podcasts that inspire and bring hope to everyone around. And we're back. So this week, we are talking about Season 1, Episode 11. I'm going to give a quick description of the episode before we get into the breakdown here. I always love these.
What is that title there?
Hold on. That's why I'm saying, hold on. We're going to get to the title. It's
one of the best titles ever.
Clark makes a startling discovery about Morgan Edge. I hate short titles like that, because that's the stuff where like every episode. But I like this one better. In the past, Clark travels to Metropolis, meets Lois. They marry and have children. However, he discovers that his Reminiscence are a ploy by his worst enemy to learn his weakness and force him to submit. Meanwhile, the Kent and Cushing families recover after it's revealed that Morgan used Smallville as a base for his operation. And the episode title, allow me to clear my throat, is A Brief Reminiscence in Between Cataclysmic Events. The title of this sounds like an Under Oath song. If anyone ever listened to Under Oath, I didn't really get into them, but they always had those, it's a dangerous business going outside your front door. These really long, and as soon as I read it, I was like,
the sun sleeps.
I read that and I was like, oh, that sounds like an Under Oath song. But that is a mouthful of a title.
It's like, I don't know. It's like that store in town that serves beer and it just says beer. You can't get more descriptive of what this is. Boom.
The title told you what this episode was about.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it.
At least for the most part, yeah.
I loved it, but it was just hilarious.
Oh, I loved it too. I think it's a great title. For however long it may be.
This episode, I mean, the whole show itself, but this episode is one of the best Superman episodes, period.
Yeah, I like the episode as much, if not more, than I like the title of the episode.
Wow. I'm gonna have to practice voices and just keep this rolling.
You know what I liked a lot about this episode was one of the small complaints I had about the show so far was I loved what Tyler was doing as Clark and Superman, but you have so many side characters in this, like with the whole with the boys and everything, that we weren't getting enough of him for me. And this episode really was him. Like, this was where we got a lot from him.
Right. And we also, like, I mean, I remember complaining because, I complain about everything, but watching that first episode and him doing that, like, recap of his life up until that moment, especially when we saw him in that, the Fleischer suit, I said, man, I would have liked, I want to see a little bit more time of him in that suit. I would like to see more of how him and this Lois met. And just a little bit more of that story. But I didn't want too much because we know the Superman origin story. I mean, like Spider-Man, like we see it every 5 seconds. But this little backstory, Superman origin story, was done so well. It showed you all you need to see. All the new things they kind of like put in there was everything that you needed. There was no time. There was no extra stuff put in that was just filler or stuff you already. I mean, it was some stuff you already knew, but it was a new take on that stuff, and it's just, man, it was so good. Just I gotta say, I love how this show does heat vision. Like I was a big critic of how Supergirl did heat vision, and but this show, the eyes glowing red, I want to see that Kryptonian badass. I want to see that stuff, and oh my gosh, and just so I mean. Well, I know you're the man, you're the host, but this show gets into Clark building the fortress right away, and we see him grow with Dad Bod Jor-El.
And the fortress isn't a freaking crystal spike castle either.
Yeah, no. It's a cave. Like it's hidden inside.
It's a mountain in a cave. Yeah.
So I love like this episode. It takes us like the moment after. If you think about, we saw the episode where he gets on the bus and he's leaving.
Yeah.
When we saw the flashback before, and like this is him now walking, and it starts with just him walking, and he has the sunstone. And thank you, like it's the sunstone crystal. It's not green. That was always something that bothered me.
Yeah, right.
And
green is very specific in Superman.
and then we have our first kind of Easter egg callback in this scene. His jacket.
Yeah.
It's that.
Reeves.
It's that. Yeah, it's the
Reeves.
Jeff East. That's also done in kind of the Snyderverse, and another way the black and red kind of flannel jacket, which my children own a fleece flannel jacket, much very similar to that.
Excellent.
And here's something. Okay, so he goes and he builds the fortress. Okay, and it's cool. Like it's not an ice castle. And when he meets Jor-El, and what I like is this Jor-El. I like. I'm not 100% sold on the actor, but the interpretation of Jor-El, I like.
Yeah, his dialogue, the way he was written.
Because he looks like every man, like he looks like he's got that dad bod, like
To me, he sounds like he's his hologram is an interpretation of himself, and he would have been a good father.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, it's, yeah. He was, he would have been a good father, Not like, what, I had a couple beers, I just didn't get to finish the shit for your mom, dude.
We see another hologram dad in this episode, and that was.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm watching it. Jen's like, who the hell is that? I'm like,
it's almost
Lord of the Rings reject. I don't know.
It's kind of, it's not exactly bookended, but it has that feeling of like where you start with the one and you end with the other.
Yeah.
But like, it's just like I said, the actor, sometimes it seems like he's trying to hide his accent a little bit more when he's speaking. And he's not a bad actor at all. Like, he's a good actor.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it's one of those things to me, like the casting of Jor-El has never been spot on for me. Like, it's never been like, yes, that's who Jor-El should be. So I was like, okay.
I think like me and you and probably some among us, the interpretations that we've seen of Jor-El from like the comic books and the animated series, the things that we grew up and the things that we love. Jor-El, Kal-El was like a spitting image of Jor-El. And I mean, that's not uncommon, but like how many children and parents look like identical to one another?
I always kind of thought of it like in the same way they talk about Harry Potter. Like, you're the spitting image of your dad, but you got your mother's eyes. It's like, that's all kind of was like, he looks a lot like his dad, and Kryptonians were all about engineering. So
yes, this is true.
But I mean, that's why I'm never like 100% happy with Jor-El. Like, especially, okay.
Well,
Marlon Brando
just like being miserable, Tyler.
I don't.
Hey guys.
Okay? Brando was okay. Like,
Bryan,
Brando was
yes,
okay.
He does.
I did not like Jor-El from Lois and Clark. I definitely did not like Jor-El on Smallville.
I mean, Terrence Stamp's voice, of course, was iconic, and Julian Sands is a great actor.
But did not work as Jor-El. Okay,
no,
like,
sir.
Terrence Stamp,
you won't bow down before me.
And I think the best Jor-El, honestly, is from The Adventures of Superman. I mean, Russell Crowe is good, but when you put it into that kind of like, they try to make like Jor-El too hip and cool, like as not just a scientist. Right. And I'm like, it works, but at the same time, I'm like, Jor-El's supposed to be like, he could be Superman himself. But anyways, Angus does a good job.
I think the best Jor-El is Jordan Kent.
Yeah, I like that. That was good. What was really cool, coming up next here, we got the discussion from Jor-El and talking to Clark, talking to Kal-El, and what we get is, not quite a training montage or anything. He's just kind of running, but the dialogue we get from Jor-El really says it all, and it kind of gives us like this reason why he's been gone, why Clark has disappeared. The thing that we see from the Reeve movie, he's just gone 12 years and poof, he's back. He's there. Yeah, in costume. He's there. We get this dialogue and we get this transition from young Clark to an older Clark. So
how great is that transition?
Yeah,
that transition is awesome.
So good.
He's trained, and then Jor-El also says, rejoin society and understand why you want to be their savior.
Thank you.
And then he goes back home, and he goes back home to his mother, and he wants to kind of jump back into his life, but his life is different because he's been gone.
So I love that Jor-El was like, and I think why you wish to help them.
Yeah, there's so much in this episode is so great.
Open your heart, and why you wish, he says, like, to be their champion. Like, yes, it's not like the direct, I've sent you here for a reason, do this. Like, he's telling him, find out for yourself why you want to do these things.
Well, that's because it's a choice. I mean, that's one thing, I'm sure we didn't even talk about that I thought about recently watching Zack Snyder's Justice League. When Clark goes in to get his suit, and before he takes off, Jonathan Kent says, "It's time, son, fly." Like, this is finally the time, after all of that, from the time he died, from him trusting his father, from him coming out as who he was, and then, like, this is the moment where he flies again. Like, this is the moment that his father was talking about.
Right. This is the
Man of Steel.
That
is the moment.
That is the moment where he makes the choice to be Superman.
For sure, yeah.
He decides that he's going to step in front of it, because in Man of Steel, he's forced by Zod. Yeah, he decides to go along with it, but he is forced by Zod to
reveal himself.
Right, and now he has a second chance where he doesn't have to, but he chooses to, and it's a great scene. And I love, like, even the homage right here to Man of Steel, where he's flying and he, it's a very similar kind of training flight sequence where he's smiling and
I
cheerful.
almost hope he would crash and then do it again.
And I like that. And that goes back to their mixing and blending the elements. But my question was, how many years do you think he was gone? Because, his mom just says you've been gone a long time. When he returns home, it's 2004. So
I think, okay, I think he's been gone probably about, I'd say he's been gone probably about 7 years. I'd say at least 7 years. Because
after her and Clark split, Kyle was Lana's high school sweetheart after Clark. So, like, how many years? I mean, it could just be like 4 years, if that.
My thought was about 4 to 5, because it puts him returning about 2004.
I forget when they said in this when he came to Earth, because I think they did, but
there's a line later from Morgan Edge where, when I watched it, it sounded like he said 97, but my subtitle said 87. And I'm pretty sure it should have been 97. And we'll get there when we get at the end. So the reason why I say it's 2004 is because Lana and Kyle are going to the movies, and if you look at it, it says Friday Night Lights and Harry Potter. Mm-hmm. So that would be Harry Potter 3 and Friday Night Lights both came out in 2004. That's why I say that he came back to Smallville in 2004.
I caught the movies, but I did not peg a year on that.
Walking IMDb.
Yes, sir.
IMDb. Now, because we also see that Lana's engaged to Kyle, and I just feel like if they were dating in high school a few years later, I don't think it would be a huge amount of time, but I don't think it would be like a right after high school kind of thing either. So, and he's talked about there's an open position at the fire station. You think about if he graduated and went into fire science, it's like a couple year program. So it's got to be at least 4 at the minimum.
I think they're about 24 here.
You think they're that would be like 6 years?
That's
roughly.
What I said. I said 7 years.
So
I think it's about 24. I think he left when he was about 17, and this is about 24.
But 24 in 2004. And then if the show takes place in real time,
would kind put him crashing in 1980.
And so that puts him like in his early 40s in modern time, which it could work. So
which kind of lines up.
Yeah, I mean it works
with having what are they, 15, 16-year-old boys? What was their birthday at the beginning of the season? Damn it, now I can't remember.
I think they were like 14-year-olds. I think now they're like 15-year-olds. We'll just say 15.
No, they're 14. They're clear. They're definitely 14.
Okay.
So that would put it. They were born in 2006. So
yeah, that would work if you think about how he meets Lois, and she says they've been dating. It's a year after Superman comes. Superman's been out for a year. She's been dating Clark officially for like 6 months, and then you think it would line up.
And can I tell you how much because we see him fly up, we see the shirt rip, we see him save the green PT Cruiser. Thanks, my mom made it. And we see him change back into the phone booth and then get the job at the planet. And then we see the pilot part where he meets Lois. And can I say how much I loved the way that they did the relationship here? She has no freaking interest in Superman.
Yes.
I loved it. And she's dating Clark, and she loves Clark, and she has no interest in Superman.
I literally clapped and said yes.
I loved it. And the way that Tyler plays Clark, like, you know, some people might say he's doing Christopher Reeves, he's being bumbly and stuff. No, that's him. He's Clark. That's him. He's that type of person. But he's not a bumbling idiot. You know, he might be just a little bit clumsy, but he's also so genuine and so good. And that's where some of that stuff comes through.
I think, you know,
like
I look at
he's still a small town guy in a big city.
Right. His clumsiness thinks about, like, you ever think about, like, when you're really energetic and you're trying to move, but you're trying to hold back, you kind of like, your steps might be a little off or whatever because you're like moving, but you're trying not to move. And I think back to his appearance on Supergirl when they get off the elevator and he kind of bumps the person when he gets out of the elevator. And James says to him, like, man, you really got the clumsy thing down. He's like, no, that was just me. Like, you know, he's saying like this, you know, about himself. And I going back just a step is with Martha making him the suit. I love that she said, I had a dream of you flying, like not as the boy, but like as the man. So I made this.
That's the part I'm watching right now, and he's
I really like that, like as that idea that Martha was like in tune.
And then she says, I think it needs something for the chest, and he knows what.
Exactly. You know, and I love how they show more, you know, from that opening. Like the montage we got at the beginning of the pilot is giving us more here. You know, like you said, he changes in the phone booth, which is great. Like it would not be one of those things I want to see every time, but it was a nice nod. And I love when he pops out and he's like, wait, what happened? And he's questioning the lady. And she's like, this guy saved a car. What do you look like? You know, and they're like, I don't know. No one saw. And then they say,
he's doing that because he needs to know if people are recognizing him as this.
Right. And she says,
to know.
And I love how she got the lines in there without it being so obvious. She says, he flew kind of like a bird or a plane. Like
that's like a bird or a plane or something.
Somebody would actually say that, you know, like comparing like how he was flying to, you know, how sometimes they really force the reference lines in, you know, and then we meet Perry, and I thought it was funny. Like I laughed when he's like, please give me a chance, Mr. White. And he says, there's no health insurance. And he's like, that's fine. I just was like, yeah, he's cool with that.
I'll do your dry cleaning, sure.
Yeah. And, you know, we get the Lombard reference. Did you guys hear the Jimmy reference?
I'm looking at the scene right now.
I don't. I caught it.
He said, try to keep up. That's what I just
the other reporter who doesn't get a name, he says, he holds up the newspaper and they're talking about, like, they're trying to find the mystery man. He's like, Jimmy got a picture of him. And that, I mean, it's really quick.
Oh, yeah.
And I got it.
And it's really far away, but he's like holding something flying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I remember now.
And like you said, I love when she meets Clark and they develop their relationship. And that goes back to like what we loved about Lois and Clark. Well, you know, Lois and Clark, the show, there's definitely like she was falling for Clark and there was a little bit more of that pushback.
But she was head over heels for Superman.
She was totally smitten.
And I love that this is she falls for Clark and Superman's a perk. Like there's another line, and we'll get there in just a minute, that I really like. And it helps me. Once he said that line in this episode and watching the episode in this context, made me appreciate why a certain story beat has not been done. And I'll get there in just a second here. Let's see. So Clark says, did you guys get the kind of in-character reference that he's going to go home and watch Seinfeld episodes?
Yes.
Yeah, because that's what my Superman does.
the fact that Jerry Seinfeld himself is a huge Superman fan, and then did those commercials with Superman.
I didn't get that. I just loved the Seinfeld reference.
I appreciated it.
The fact that it's Seinfeld is because Jerry Seinfeld, a very huge Superman fan.
Cool, that's awesome.
It'd been fun if he was like watch some Nick Cage action movies.
Right, that would be sweet too. I like the montage. I loved Lois at this point because like I said, she doesn't care less about Superman. She cares about I cannot speak. She cares about what is happening to the people. She's not worried about the flying man. She's worried about the flying man gobbling up all the stories that people aren't getting attention, and that they are tracking in the montage with them. They are tracking and following, trying to find out who this neo-Nazi racist guy is, who is terrorizing and basically, being a modern terrorist to minorities in Metropolis. And that's what she cares about.
She states, my reporting is getting buried, because Clark says, I haven't heard about this. And she says, my reporting is getting buried because everyone's
drowned out by everyone's favorite Miracle Man. And that's when he's like, oh, okay.
How can I help?
How can I help you? Yeah.
And she says,
I love that too, because, he's doing his thing and he's obviously saving people and stuff. And I'm sure he loves getting, giving people hope, that somebody is there to help. But, exactly. But how does it feel that, what he's doing, there's this problem and he didn't know anything about it?
Yes.
How does that make him feel? Like he needs to get to the bottom of it.
And I like you said, that montage is so great of them working together, reporting. And she even says, like, I can talk to Perry to get a beat of your own. And he's like, I'd rather be here. And she has the great flirtatious line of, for the story or the company. And he's like, that's a trick question.
Yeah,
I'm going to go home, Lois.
I feel like that's a trick question.
So,
man, I see this little montage of trying to get this neo-Nazi. This is him. I mean, this is him learning what's important. This is him learning how he has to attack everything. Like, it's not just stopping cars and disasters and tornadoes. Like, this is him learning. Okay, it's more than just that. It's these things about the people. It's how everything I do affects the people, affects the little man, affects everybody in the neighborhood. Like, I mean, this is like Batman the Long Halloween realizing he has to be a detective. This is Superman knowing that I don't have to, I need to be more than the super Kryptonian. I got to be human. I got to be real. And I need to be with Lois to learn that.
Yeah, 'cause I love when he looks at her and he goes, you're really good at this. And they have their whole, like, board put up and everything. And, I mean, there is evidence in the stories and in the comics that Clark, as a person, admires so much about Lois. Even if you remove how he loves her, just her as a person and how, in a way, super she is, that he is in awe of her as a person.
It's that deep respect. Like, this is a woman that has the mission that I have. This is a woman that just cares about everybody. Like, I want to be with that lady. And him, and I also loved, like, not only is she not crazy about Superman, she has no interest in that, but when I'm watching the part where he's going crazy to save her, and Perry yells, "This isn't track and field, Kent."
I love
and then
how
you see
hard
it fly out the window.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so great. And
I mean, this shot is beautiful.
Oh, so great. The fire hitting him. And
the fire hits him and he turns and looks at her.
Yep. And it's like, hey, this is what I'm here for.
The freeze breath, like, he puts out the fire.
He just gives her a little nod, like, hey, Miss Lane, this is who I am. I know you don't have a great opinion about me. You think I'm just like showing off, but this is what I'm about. I understand you now. I understand that this is the stuff I got to take care of.
Right. And what I love is, so, he takes out one grenade with the heat vision. The other one he catches and it throws him back. And then Lois is the one that takes out the guy with the stun gun,
That was the only thing that I was like, he caught the grenade, but it sent him flying.
See, it doesn't bother me because I still think he's early in his career.
Yes, it does make sense. He gets stronger as he goes.
And that's kind of how I took it, like he doesn't know the explosion amount. And I mean, that's true in early Superman stories, like, I love when she's like, so what do I call you? And I like how she's on guard by him. She's not fully online with him.
Gosh, that shit looks good.
Like she's not there because she says, about his name, and he says, "I'm sure you'll come up with something."
Red
and then
blue, man.
She hits when the guy walks up and says Superman.
And then she like you said, she's on guard of him, and then she has that TV interview with him. And then, they have the behind the scenes talk, and he hears everything. Like, he's probably never heard Lois say, "I love you" to him, to Clark. And,
no, because she said she hadn't told.
He hears it, and he's like, yes. And that gives him the push to take her home to Smallville to meet his mother and reveal his secret to her.
I mean, I love that scene.
It's so much. It's written so good, and this relationship is so much better than any others that have been put on the screen. I swear to God.
Okay, real quick.
Totally right.
We've talked about this before, and I'm reiterating. I hate the Chris Reeve, Margot Kidder, Lois and Clark relationship. I hate it. Mm-hmm. Anyone who wants to say any different, message me. We'll talk. But I hate it.
She's a total bitch to him.
Because she loves Superman. She doesn't really care about Clark, and he gives up his powers for her, and that's a whole mess.
Yep.
Okay, they don't ever have like any type of relationship and coming together as the people they are.
Right.
That's why it didn't work. Okay. So when Janet, here kind of throws her like the whole thing about Superman's, checking you out, but she's like, I don't care about Superman. I'm in love with someone else, and she's like, Clark from the newspaper. We've been going out for 6 months, and I haven't said it to anyone, not even him yet, and like. Superman's sitting there and like try to contain that, like that happy joyfulness, like he's would be crazy, just but it's a great part, and I like that when he takes her home to the farm and his mom says some things to him. She says, there's no going back from this. And he's like, I knew there was no going back from the first time I saw her.
I'm watching the scene right now where the producer's talking to her, and like you can see blurred in the background Tyler sitting there, and like just in the blurred, like as soon as she says the things about him, he turns his head ever so slightly, like trying to look like he's not listening, but then when they get to the part where she says, I love him, then that's when they finally show him. This was just done so well. Like, man.
And you know what I love is he went to the farm, told his mom, and then he goes outside with her, and it cuts back to those opening montage of, him flying to reveal himself, the marriage, or the proposal, then the marriage. I'm glad they didn't do out the whole scene of him telling her and maybe her getting upset and kind of like drawing it out, or like, I feel like it's kind of a good beat to kind of just, okay, they move on from that. Like she's not upset or whatever. Like they could have dwelled on if they wanted to, like, if that's really like what they wanted to do with this was like, oh, she gets upset, she's mad, but I just love they kept going. And, they use those scenes. And This is the line that he says to Lois when they're kind of on their honeymoon. That is the point that I was referring to earlier about, one of the things that we've kind of said is, why did he never tell Lana or all this? Because in the comics, a lot of times, Lana is the first person he tells. And I love that he states, I kept my secret from everyone, and I realize it's for you, so we can share it and have this life together. And that line is why I'm like, okay, that's why he never told Lana. That's why he didn't tell anyone else. That is a big step and a big moment for this relationship. And, I mean, they're cementing themselves as the best Lois and Clark relationship.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And then she's pregnant. And she says she wants it to be a girl, and then it's twins. And no way that she could tell that it's twin boys at this point, but she says it's twin boys. This is what I get for wanting it to be a girl.
Yeah. And she's like, is this because of Superman? And I love the reference, no, my father said everything would be fine. And she states he didn't know they would be twins. And what I think is interesting about this point is right there shows you the post-crisis conception compared to the pre-crisis. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, the pre-crisis made so much sense about him being depowered, them being on Argo so that she could be pregnant and all that. But this is like normal. And I don't know how I feel about the moment. I mean, it could work, it couldn't work, who knows. I think it kind of leans towards the story where the kids were perceived to be normal.
Right.
But
I mean, yeah, it makes sense that if they don't have any abilities in the womb, and then further on and they don't achieve any abilities until Jordan does as a teenager. It kind of makes it that they're a bit closer. They're a bit closer biologically that it would work, and that the kids pose no threat to Lois not being superpowered.
Right. So,
it does take out a small bit that is cool, but I don't know. You don't have to have. In your version of the story, you know what I'm saying? It's another interpretation.
Right. Because even in the comics, they did the reason why that they got pregnant with John Kent, the current Superboy, and all that is because it was during Convergence when that city timeline was on another planet, bottled, that Clark had no powers.
Yeah, every city that was bottled, anybody that had superpowers was depowered back to normal. So the vigilantes stood out at that point.
In which Clark was at the time, which was interesting, for those 2 issues of Convergence Superman.
There's a lot of issues to Convergence.
Yeah. Everybody had to get their own 2 to 3 issue little spinoff for every timeline. And
there was pre-crisis, there was pre-infinite, there was final crisis, there was
crisis, midlife crisis. That is the crisis that I've been waiting for Superman and Batman to have that they have yet to print. Midlife crisis.
Midlife crisis. That
yes.
would be good. That would be good. We got. I don't even know. You could put so many crazy things in there.
I didn't read all of them.
It's like Superman, Batman Hall Pass or something.
Yeah. So this is the part where Clark kind of steps outside his memories and realizes, wait a minute, this isn't real. And we find out that Tal Edge is what I'm going to call him, okay, is talking to him. He talks about, it's great being a father. And, this is when he kind of comes to realize that, he's basically inside Clark's mind, learning his thoughts, and who he is. And he says, I wanted to find out why you would, push back, and we could, negotiate the terms of your surrender. And I like how Clark says, don't hurt them. He's like, I would never hurt infants, newborns, but teenage boys is different. And, the scientists of Terrorlock, like I said, these Kryptonian names are like writing Jedi names. Okay. I mean, and because, in a memory, Clark's talking to Jor-El, trying to tell him about the wedding, and Jor-El says, "Get out, my son, get out, go." And it's kind of him waking up to the modern time. And we have, Tal Edge here in the fortress, reading with a device, reading Clark's mind, and they kind of start talking, and basically the scene right here kind of reminded me of like Man of Steel, where Zod says his goodbye to Jor-El before destroying the AI Jor-El, and I like that Jor-El's last statements to Clark was, "I love you, son," as Tal destroys the Sun Crystal, and I didn't think about it the first time I watched it was, does this now state like there's no more Jor-El? So this is Clark's last parental figure gone. He lost his mother at the beginning of this. Now he's losing his Kryptonian father, the guy, kind of his guiding light of Krypton, like his tech, his science that he had potentially. Okay. I thought that was a big step. And then, the fact that Tal Edge here says, "My greatest disappointment was you because I always wanted to have a brother." And it reminded me very Aquaman and Ocean Master. And as some people have stated, this is like doing Zod with a little bit of a different level. So you're not doing Zod exactly, but you're kind of doing it different. And it's also interesting that nobody's reflecting on the fact that Clark used to work for Morgan Edge. So, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's pretty cool, the device, getting into his head. I mean, it's an explanation for what they did before. We've seen it before. We saw it in Man of Steel, Zod getting into his head. But it was really cool, him using it to find his weakness, find out who he is, how he could force him to do what he wanted. And it worked,
Yeah. Here's my question. Do you think that this current storyline and this character will affect the comics? I feel like they do things on the shows and they filter into the comics. Like, it was interesting by the time in the comics they did that moment that everyone forgets actually happened, where it was called DCU and it was YOU. Mm-hmm. It was like the soft reboot of the New 52 right before they did Rebirth, where you had the depowered Superman, Wonder Woman was, Ares, and Aquaman was starting to look a little bit more like Jason Momoa, and they did the Flash, and they put the red behind his symbol to match the TV show right about the same time the TV show went to the classic white. But I feel like with Superman shows, I don't know, like, we haven't had one while the comics were like really running in a while. Do you think the Tal character will bleed in or not?
I mean, it's a possibility.
So
it's absolutely a possibility.
So it's interesting. But then this is where we kind of catch up now. We're done with our reminiscence. And we find, we cut to Kyle, and he's with Lana and Lois, and he's like talking about the bad headache, and he talks about how the town's probably going to blame him because he's the one that would like champion for Edge. And he, we find out that that basically the cover story is how they had to convince everyone that Edge was doing some sort of brain technique and leaving out the whole alien consciousness side. And like I've said before, I think Kyle's written well. He's believable. He's not over overdone of like the bad father, or whatever. He's a believable character, and I like that he humbles himself here and apologizes to Lois for how he's treated her, and it was a good scene.
Well, he was never a bad character, you know. Like he did what he thought was right for the town, the place he cared about, the place he grew up, you know, and the town's been going through a lot, and he's a firefighter, so they also deal with a lot, and he's just been he's had things difficult for a while, and it led to him having a bit of a drinking problem. So, you know, him feeling sorry for letting Edge in here and in Smallville and championing for him.
I think that I think Kyle is just very relatable, you know, like
he feels like a real person.
Yeah, like you know, I mean, how many times do us Kyle's the guy that Kyle's us. I mean, you know, it's not like Kyle's the guy that like he tries to be a hero. I mean, he's a fireman.
Yeah.
You know, he has no superpowers. He doesn't make a lot of money. He has a hot ass wife like we do. You know, he has 2 daughters. You know, but every chance he wants to get ahead or to feel powerful or to feel like he's, you know, every man wants to feel like they can take care of stuff, and Kyle kind of is the everyday man Lex Luthor kind of here, you know, like he looks at Superman, he looks like guys like Morgan Edge. Well, I mean, Lex doesn't look like Morgan Edge like this, but you know what I'm saying? Like he's us looking at these guys with money, looking at these guys with power, and he wants a part of that, and I can relate to that, you know, and constantly screwing up as you're trying to deal with the depression and the feeling of powerlessness. Like, you know, Kyle can, you know, at times be a douchebag character, but I get it, man. Like, I understand that. And for him to apologize to Lois and, you know, him to have these moments where he can be there for his daughter, like, I hope they don't, like, I was worried that they were going to kill him off in the first season, man. But, and, you know, we even said something
it's
like...
It's not over yet.
What's that? Yeah, he could die. Yeah, you're right. I
mean, he could die heroically if there's like a fight against Morgan Edge and whatever he throws out, you know. But sure. I think we all went into this kind of already hating Kyle because we expected more of like...
Because it's not Pete, you know?
the dead end, like, man. And I'm still pulling for Pete to show up, by the way, so...
Yeah, I mean, if he does, he could bite it in a heroic way, and it would be really bad. And then Pete Ross comes back to Smallville.
I mean, that could be really cool. Because I mean, I think the thing is when you're thinking about how well they're writing this story, if they can't find a reason to have Kyle's character continue, like what would be his contribution? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but you don't want to see. I mean, we don't want to see him die. It's just a speculation. No. I don't want to see Kyle die just to get Pete Ross in there.
I agree. It's just kind of like, you know how there's certain shows and CW shows where you have that one character. You're like, I like this character, but they don't know what to do with the characters. They just kind of keep giving them BS and dragging it out, and eventually they let the character go or kill them off or whatever. But by that time, you're tired of the character because they fumbled around for a while with them. So these writers seem like very
Iris?
Solid.
No, I was started from Iris from the start. My bad.
Yeah. Well, Malcolm Merlin was one.
Yeah.
Even Captain Lance, you know, after a while, like they ran out of things for him to do.
Joe's almost getting there.
Joe is there, but I feel like they're finding like the lesson Joe. They're giving him a story, but they're it's almost like they're finding a way for Joe to step out. Like, but I love Joe. Like, he is the best TV dad of all time.
Absolutely.
I don't care what anybody says. So we also, jumping back to the show where we're at, is we have the kids, John and Jordan, with Sarah talking, and this is definitely the least of the children we've ever gotten. I think John has like maybe 1-2 lines in this whole episode. He says, our grandpa's leaving. Seems like families lie to each other type thing, and and it's interesting because Jordan, speaks to Sarah, and as he's saying, I didn't want to lie or anything, she basically kisses him and says, I want to be more than friends. And
I don't want to be just friends anymore. Which I love that movie. I think it's so fun.
It is. It's a great Christmas movie. So
yeah, I watch Just Friends all the time.
And I love that, like, it kind of goes back to, remember when Lois said she'll make the call when she doesn't want to, she wants to change the relationship. Yeah. And then I love how
John, get out of the room, boy.
John's happy for his brother, and they're like, and then, when they're driving home and they get out of the truck, you have that line like, oh man, it's official, and Lois says, okay, now that you have a girlfriend, there's some rules that your father and I are going to have to go over with you. Now, before we go into this last part, here's something I was thinking about. We have this storyline of brothers, okay? Yes. It's interesting that Tall Edge here hasn't, like, maybe he will, now he knows. And it's also funny that Lois worked for Morgan Edge and, like, probably was digging up dirt on him, but never found anything that maybe would have linked to a more mysterious path. Just thrown out there. Tall doesn't like appeal to Jonathan or something. He doesn't try to, like, sway a son or take a son. Like, your father and your brother have these powers. I can give these powers to you.
That's what I thought they were going to do.
And like I said, we still got 4 episodes, but I just was thinking about that. Like, if you're going to do these parallel type stories where you have these threads, but if they don't, that's cool too.
Well, I definitely don't see that being John. I can give you these powers too. I mean, if anything, John is the more composed of the two, the better, the more honest of the two brothers.
Well, that's why it would be interesting that he chooses John, thinking that he can get through, because John doesn't have powers. And Edge just wants to use him, not because he really cares or wants him to have powers or whatever, but just to get at Superman and Lois.
No, he doesn't, because, we see him build his fortress out of his crystal, and his father is just an absolute dickhead.
Hold on. We're getting there.
His father looks like.
Hold on.
James
Don't. No, it would never look like James. You take that back, Brian.
How dare you?
Well,
I'm done. I'm gonna go cry.
Yeah.
But,
he is.
But
yeah, never mind.
We have the great line of, oh, it sounds like Dad's home, and it's Morgan drops down. He says, "Your Uncle Morgan thought he'd stop by to visit family." I thought that was kind of a fun line, and I love how on command Jordan produced his heat vision. Like, he stepped forward and it wasn't like he had to summon it. He just, boom, he was in there.
Whoop his ass, T-Bass.
And of course, what do you call it? Morgan knocks him back, and he goes to kill Lois. He says, I'll keep your kids alive. And he goes to use his heat vision to kill it. And then Clark drops in. And this right here made me think very episode 3 of Star Wars. Because he says, I'll do whatever you want. Just leave my family. I'll submit. And he's kneeling. He's bowing, And then we find out, because I like how he turns to Lois and says, I'm sorry, we need more time. Like, he's trying to buy time. And then we find out that Morgan built his fort, like you said, he built a desert fortress. He said he liked having the sun on his face. And I like I like how they do this shot, because when I was watching the first time, I didn't quite realize what was going on, because he says, my home. And it looks as if he turns to look, and when he does, you see a person walking. And I was like, who are they looking at? But then I realized that was the transition to the flashback. And I like how we see this kind of parallel creation of like a desert fortress for Tall. And then he goes in and puts his crystal in, and his father comes out looking like Palpatine. Okay? Straight up, scary, haggard. And this is where we get the line where he says, the actors sound like he says 1997, but my caption says he said 87, which I don't know, would it work for him? Like, how much older do you think Morgan Edge is supposed to be? Like, because I'm thinking, like, how old is he right there if it's 87? Like, is he like 15, 16? You know what I'm saying?
He was an older child, maybe, 9, 10 years old when he arrived here. Clark was an infant.
So that's why I'm kind of like.
So I mean, even if they came at the same time, he's still older. I mean, he was born first.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if it's 87, I don't know. Math, man. Maybe it is 87. Maybe it is. By the time,
carry the one.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'll sit down later and do the nerdy math. My wife will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'll be like, "Nerd math," and she'll be like, "You're stupid." No, she won't, because she's cool like that. She'll just be like, "Let me help you."
Oh, you need my wife to help you? My wife will tell you you're stupid.
I know. That's why that's why I have my wife.
You're welcome.
She, my wife backs me up and has my back and supports me.
Well, I mean, my wife supports me as well, but she also will tell the truth, and I am stupid.
The truth is just from a certain point of view, Brian, and your wife's disposition is different. I think
Curly from the Three Stooges said it the best. Truth is stranger than fiction, Judgy Wudgy.
But yeah, so basically at the end we see that Tall is basically tortured by his father to alleviate pain, because when he asks if any other Kryptonians were coming, he says there's that weakness again. They ask if the Eradicator has arrived. It had not arrived yet. And I think that's interesting, because that goes back to that episode where we see that thing crash at the beginning, and Morgan Edge.
He's been waiting for it for years.
Yeah. And, Morgan Edge earlier said, I chose a life I wasn't hiding. I used it as a strategic advantage to rise up, while you chose a lesser self and identity.
But he puts him down for coming from a small town, from embracing who he is. He puts him down for being Clark Kent, like being Clark Kent and being raised by a human and wanting to live that way is a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's why he's such a terrible person. And the guy who plays Zeta Rho, his dad, he's the mayor from Sucker Punch. He's the guy smoking the cigar that the girls steal the lighter from.
Nice. I did not look up.
I was sure that's who it was, but I needed to verify.
Yeah, he was smoking something. But then we have at the end, they basically throw the son of Jor-El under the red light that he's getting hit, much like Tao did when he was younger. He kind of wakes up with his eyes glowing red. And then we have the final scene of Lois picks up the phone and calls and says, John, it's happening just like you said. I think Superman's been turned. And like I told you in the chat, I hated that line.
I believe she said, I think Superman's been turned.
Yeah, she did.
She?
I wrote it verbatim. I watched the caption. Okay. I don't like that line because I feel like it's a little it's a little obscure. It's not just like you said.
Well, well, when you told me that, I said, it's the line they're using to take out an episode. It's leaving you on this dramatic ending. And, I was sure before I even watched the promo for next episode, I can't say next week because that's not when it's happening, but the next episode, she is not like going down that path like, oh, Superman's now a lost cause. She won't give up on him, and we know that's going to happen. We know that's how it's going to be. And that's exactly, that is what they show. She's, the way she's talking in the promo for the next episode, and she's talking to John Henry Irons. And, they leave us on that dramatic ending. But we know it's not like I said, she's not giving up on him, but John needs to know, because he's one of the people, he fought the Kryptonians before. So he's got the advantage.
I have no problem with her calling John. Like, I figured that was going to happen.
Oh, absolutely. We said that way back.
I just hate the you don't talk about my Superman like that. Okay.
Well, she should have said, all right, you know what, John, things with me and Soup, it's not going to work out now.
Exactly.
Let's have a child, name her Natalie.
You already know what I like.
Exactly. That's my point.
We can make this work.
That's what her saying it. It's happening exactly like you said. He's like, yes, here I come. But that's just so true. All right. So, I had to explain to Solomon when this episode ended, like what the whole cliffhanger is, what, a mid-season kind of finale is. Cause I really feel like this was, probably the original, maybe mid-season finale, or the Man of Steel was. It's kind of debatable, like what the original plan was when they set this up and was working on this episode, in the initial, setup.
So. The reveal, either the reveal of John being, the reveal of him, or the episode where they, freed him.
Yeah. So that is this very lengthy episode, but it was a very good episode.
Okay, yeah, she did say, John, it's happening just like you said it would, but she says, I think Superman turned.
Yep, I think Superman's been turned.
I don't like him turning this soon. I don't think the reasoning is good enough.
I'm fine with the way they're doing it, because
of course you are.
It's not him, like he's being forced through a technology. You know what I'm saying? He chose.
No, he just goes in front of him and says, I'll do what you ask.
Yeah, that makes sense because he's depowered and he's saving his family. And you know what I'm saying? And then when they take him to the other fortress, because right there, Zeta could have heat visioned all of them, killed all of them. I mean, not Zeta, Tau. Clark doesn't have the ability, and that's why he says, I'm trying to buy time.
He's got friends. He's got friends in low places.
At that moment, you wouldn't do anything to save your family?
His friends aren't going to be able to get there. His friends aren't going to be able to help or save in that moment.
Unless he signaled Barry and Kara, which we're still debating on where this takes place and where's Kara at, nobody's going to get there in time. Maybe Martian Manhunter. You know what I'm saying? Unless he signaled one of those, nobody's coming.
Listen, you boys are in an apocalyptic situation. Your family's in jeopardy. I'm morbidly obese, but I'm telling you right now, you give me a call, I'm there in seconds. Okay? Because that is what heroes do.
Yeah, but let's just think about how fast he had to fly from the fortress to get there with very little power. Unless he had a reverse breath and
maybe I've been wearing a fat suit all along, and I really am a hero from the future. You did not know.
That's a twist. But
you're welcome.
Any final thoughts before we wrap this up here, fellas?
I praised it this whole time, so I think I'm good. This might be one of my favorite episodes because there's so much in it that I liked. It was, one of the best episodes of the season, with a lot of good episodes. So
I still don't understand how he's his brother. I still understand how that's worked out.
Because the way I see it is...
So Laura was married to Count Ugly.
Yep.
And she was like betrothed to him, right?
Yeah, she was binded to him. It helps if you look at Krypton and how Seg was being bound to Nyssa.
Right. And I totally understand that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what they're saying is like this, Count Chocolate or whatever, Count Fatula, whatever. He was binded to Lara. They had the kid, but Lara fell in love with Jor-El.
Yeah,
because Jor-El supported her theories and revelations about Krypton going to hell, right? So
they fell in love and they shared.
So she was already married and she cheated, or she divorced the dude. Like what? Like that's where I'm losing it.
And I think that's where they haven't got into it, because if you think of it in the fact that they were bound almost like as a legal thing. That's why I say go back and look at the show Krypton. It helps give you the framework to Zeta. And they're probably doing the same style of how children were created as they do like in Krypton and allude to in Man of Steel.
Sure. Yeah, gotcha.
And then I look at it as like she fell in love with Jor-El from a very organic point and ended it with Tau, and however the Kryptonian code would be. And then, because they say married, right? Not bound or anything like that. And then I feel like
go ahead.
They might still do like the kind of idea that maybe Cal, like they haven't said it, but like in my head canon's kind of back to that Man of Steel type being the natural birth, a new thing for Krypton. And I just feel like they kind of are just like this. Yeah, we'll just go from there.
So it's like her second marriage.
Yeah, but it's her second marriage, but like the first of like actually wanting to what we would consider being married. The other was just like predetermined societal laws. Like they just randomly were like. I think there's a line in Krypton about like they randomly assign like coupling to further the species and not have as much cross blood matching or whatever. So yeah, and then I mean even like I said, if you look at Krypton the show, where in that you find out that Seg not only has Jor-El with Nyssa, he also has Druzad with Lyta, and Druzad and Jor-El are half brothers through that whole thing. So it's like they've reverse engineered that in a way and applied that same situation and concept here. So, and they're just kind of like I said, they're just kind of like skipping over. Like James is beating something. They're kind of, applying that logic here, and they're kind of like, Lara was forced to marry this. Kind of like, think about like fairy tales or Shakespeare stuff. Like you're forced with this person, but I really love this person, and that's who I want to be with. So,
that makes sense. I mean, I was just trying to understand because I'm not as tarp as a shack as you guys. I want to see. I really hope we get this like really awesome finale of Diggle, Steel, Lois, Superboy, just whooping ass. That's what I want to see.
I almost wonder if Jonathan's not going to get powers by the end of the season, but I don't know. That might be something to explore for season 2. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I think Jonathan's thing is like speed. Like it's going to be something like speed, like he's fast. But all right, so we're going to end it there. Thanks all of our listeners. It was a great episode. We look forward to when it returns in July. And remember, the Krypton Report is part of the Southgate Media Group network of podcasts. If you have an interest, check out Southgate Media Group to see if your podcast is there. I bet it is. At the Southgate Media Group website, you can sign up for our newsletter. You'll get info on all the shows, and you can find what you want. You'll also find links to our sponsors where you can get great products and support the podcast. Also, our book, Pod Life, Podcasting Stories. It's a great book. Check it out. It's nice to hear where people come from and why they do what they do. And remember,
Life